Thanks for joining us today. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. And today we're going to be talking a little bit on what we can control in a world of chaos. It's going to take some time before we understand the true impact of the COVID-19 coronavirus on our communities and our nation's economy. And if you feel like you can't find your footing in a crisis that continues to unfold, you're not alone. A lot of people are worried about that. So today we'll take some time. We'll focus on what we can control in a world of chaos. And Philip, let's start with something positive. When we have a global crisis, it can bring out the worst, but also the best in people. Tell me an example of some of the best that you've seen in people in the last few weeks.
Well, I've seen where, people are running to the grocery store for their neighbor, for people in their neighborhood. I'm seeing that. That's probably one of the biggest ones right there, because that's been such a big concern of folks, is that, how do I go out and get my groceries? How do they do those menial things? And, it's like I told my mom and dad, like, you're grounded. You got to stay home. And so, I get that phone call periodically. Hey, I need this or I need that. And so you got to run out and take care of that. And so I think more and more people are trying to take care of their neighbors and help them out as much as they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it is interesting, all the interactions people are still trying to have. The other day I went for a run, and when I got home, I told my husband how it's so strange that you're running along the sidewalk and people, they will cross to the other side of the street to give you enough space. So everybody's giving each other enough space. And I was telling him how weird that was. And he told me, well, but at the same time, he was working out on something in our driveway. And he said, I've never had more people just stopping and talking. I mean, keeping their distance, but nobody has anything else to do. So they're what are you working on? He was sanding our horse trailer. So I guess it got everybody's attention.
Another big one that we had, Jen, last week is we had folks congregate at the hospitals.
Oh, yeah.
And just, shine their lights. And it was a time for prayer and just let the healthcare workers know how much they're appreciated. With signs and that kind of stuff. So that was kind of a big thing, because those guys are on the front line. They're dealing with this virus every day and really putting themselves at risk.
Yeah, it's so great when people can still try to find a way to come together, even when they have to be distant, which is pretty cool. Tell me, how do you keep things in perspective when facing a crisis? And obviously, what we're going through now is probably something that you haven't gone through before. But in general, in times of crisis, what do you do to keep things in perspective?
Well, I think that we have to look to say, okay, the experiences that we have gone through definitely help prepare you for the next one, right? So a big part of my perspective is my faith. I mean, that really is. I don't know how people who don't have a faith can get through a crisis like this, because truly that has been a mainstay for me and my family, is because we know the end of the story. We know how it ends. And so, having that faith really does give you the perspective and help you get through this kind of crisis, whether it's a health crisis or a financial crisis, any kind of crisis. That is the key point, and really does help get us through it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have a similar response to that. It's something like their faith that can really help them get through. Tell me, what kind of questions are you getting from people right now? I know it's not business as usual and that you can't meet with people face to face, but you're still here. You're still able to answer the phones or meet with people virtually. And I know you've been having some virtual Ask Philip Anything sessions. What kinds of questions are you getting?
It just depends, what's happened that week and the economics. Last week or so, we had some questions on how long, we thought it was going to last, what our belief was in terms of how long this process was going to last, how fast we really thought that our economy would turn around at the, once this thing was done. And so I think that's people's main concern is, it is concerned about their money, but they're more concerned about their health right now. We're they understand we're taking care of their finances, and they see the changes that we make on a regular basis to their portfolios. And so they're thankful for that. But their concern is health, and how long do we think this is going to last from an economic standpoint? You know, we should not let our emotions really get the best of us in times like this. A lot of times we tend to make decisions irrationally when we're in the throes of something like this. And so, sometimes you just need some assurance that you're on the right path, and that you feel like your concerns are not being addressed. Or, I saw something the other day from an advisor online that, hey, if you haven't heard from your advisor, you need to give us a call. Well, I take it one step further, Jen. I say, you know what? You may have heard from your advisor, but what's he doing? What changes are they making in their portfolio? How much have they moved your portfolio to safety? I think now is an ideal time to get a second look on your current portfolio to make sure that if this thing continues to go down, which nobody thinks it will, nobody knows what it's going to do, but what if it keeps going down further? Are you prepared for that? Is your portfolio ready to handle that downturn? And so I think a second set of eyes right now makes a good bit of sense. Give us a call. Let us process you through our financial x-ray. That's 863-285-3815, 863-285-3815 to schedule your financial x-ray.
You can also check out the website if you'd like to learn a little bit more, statlerfinancial.com. And they're also real active on Facebook. So if you're on there, just do a search for Statler Financial Services. You're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac alongside Philip Statler. He is, of course, president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. And there is a lot of uncertainty about what to do and what not to do right now, because we're just inundated with new updates and new information every day. I think about when all of those first closings and cancellations were coming out, it just seemed like every hour there was something new that we needed to be following. It was a really hectic time. How do we know when to make changes with our money and when to stay the course when we're just bombarded with all of these updates all the time?
Well, that is a good question. And so it is sometimes difficult to decide when do we make changes. A lot of times I'll tell people, maybe you shouldn't do anything right now. But more importantly, I think, is what is the process you're going through to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time. And that's really, I think, the key is, and that's why we developed our financial x-ray to really x-ray folks' portfolios. And right now, it's more concerning about how much risk do you have. I mean, the cost and the other stuff is important too, but I think right now in this place and time, it's the risk factor. How much risk do you have in your portfolio? And, what is that going to mean to you down the road? If you are in that retirement danger zone, then it becomes even more and more important that you make sure that you're riding through that process and that you don't have too much risk because, like I said, this market still has the potential to go down further.
Do you think right now is a good time for a second opinion?
I do, Jen. I don't think there's ever a bad time, but I think even now more than ever, folks need to make sure that they've taken enough risk off the table. Did their advisor take any risk off the table? I mean, from people I've talked to, that has not been the case. It's been, hey, your portfolio is okay. Don't worry about it. Folks, that's, to me, is not necessarily a good answer. If you don't see them actually making changes in their portfolios over time, they're not actively managing anything. They've just got a pot of mutual funds there. And so it's like '08, right? People didn't do anything until it was too late and the client couldn't take it anymore and they sold out. Well, my clients know where they are. They know kind of what that risk bucket looks like, and they know what the maximum downside potential looks like. And so I think now's a great time for a second opinion, given how much risk we've already seen in the marketplace and how much we've already seen the market decline, and to know that it may get a bounce up. But remember, in '08, it bounced up too. It bounced up about 20% before it made that final fall down. And so I caution people not to get too excited about the ups and downs in the market, but to make sure that the risk you have is going to be what you really need in terms of protecting yourself.
What about emergency withdrawals from your retirement accounts? Should we consider that, or how does the new legislation impact our need for dipping into our retirement accounts at a different time than what we'd planned?
Well, here's one thing that is good about the CARES Act that was passed. We now have the ability to take money out of our retirement accounts, including IRAs, without having to pay that 10% penalty. Now, you are still going to have to pay the tax on that money when it comes out. But if you're not working, well, you don't have the income anyway, so maybe it helps offset it. But so that is an advantage that you do have. But I would look to all the other sources first, Jen. Don't just go grab for retirement money, especially here in Florida. The unemployment amounts that folks are going to get are going to be more than what most people make, at least here in Highlands County. So I think that should be your first line of defense, is to use all the programs that are out there before we reach for that retirement account. Leave it as long as you can. Make it a last resort withdrawal if you absolutely have to. Here at Statler Financial, we created our financial x-ray to help people understand where they are in terms of risk, in terms of cost and expenses within their portfolio. I think those things are all important because fees take away from your earnings. And so if you're losing money anyway, you don't want those fees to be too high, because then it's adding on to that loss even more. I think there's a lot of things that we can help you with. More importantly, just making sure that that risk is taken care of, making sure that we don't have too much risk in our current portfolio. There's other things though right now. There's tax planning that could be a huge benefit right now with all the negative balances in our accounts. Maybe we do some tax loss harvesting. There's just a lot of things out there. Let us take a second look at your current portfolio, walk you through our financial x-ray. Give us a call right now, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815 to schedule your complimentary, no obligation financial x-ray. That's 863-285-3815.
Coming up next on the Statler Financial Radio Show, we will hear from an expert from Johns Hopkins on what baby boomers need to know to protect themselves from coronavirus. And there's a lot more you can do than just washing your hands. We'll get into that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
With the worldwide pandemic and stock markets plummeting, now is the time to listen to a voice of reason. Call Philip today at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
How healthy is your retirement plan? From record highs to historic losses in a matter of days, the impact of the coronavirus has been felt around the world. If COVID-19's effect on the market has you worried, Philip Statler and his team at Statler Financial Services are offering you a complimentary review of your retirement portfolio. And if you don't already have a plan, they can help you create a plan designed to help reduce the risk to your retirement savings when the market drops. Call 863-285-3815 to schedule your complimentary visit or virtual meeting to help make sure your retirement savings are built to last through down markets today and in the future. Call now to give your retirement plan a checkup with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Investment advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. We have a special guest with us today. We have the opportunity to speak with an expert from Johns Hopkins about what baby boomers need to know about the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Alicia Arbaje is the Director of Transitional Care Research at Johns Hopkins. She specializes in geriatric medicine, and she's also studied public health and designing healthcare systems. And I am Jen Rizak alongside. Dr. Arbaje, thank you for speaking with us today. I should point out we're on the phone with you because we are practicing social distancing, but welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with this, Dr. Arbaje. The numbers are staggering, both in the numbers of cases and in the death toll. Johns Hopkins actually has a coronavirus dashboard with the latest numbers, and you can find that at coronavirus Talk about why those numbers are growing so quickly and how much worse do you think this is going to get?
Yeah, the numbers are really staggering. I think one of the reasons we're seeing the numbers going up is because we now have the availability of more testing kits. And the more testing we can do, the more we can find out who really has this condition. And before, when there was less kits available, we didn't really have as good of an idea as to how many people were already infected. So I think that's one of the main reasons why the numbers are going up. And I think the second reason is because there really are also more infections. It's not just that we're identifying them. And we are still, we haven't reached the peak of the number of people that we think are going to be infected. And so I think we're looking at another good, I would say, 3 or more weeks of seeing when we reach this peak. It could be longer. I don't think it'll be shorter because there are still parts of the country that haven't really started to see a lot of cases yet, though that's changing day by day. So I like to stay optimistic, but I do like to also stay realistic and think that we're looking at least several more weeks before we start to see the full number of people that are really dealing with this illness.
Let's back up for just a moment, Dr. Arbaje. When did you first start paying attention to coronavirus as someone who specializes in the health of older people? When did this really pop up on your radar?
Yeah, so I think like many people, I was starting to hear about this in the wintertime, like around December, and becoming very concerned about what was happening in Asia around this, and thinking about personally whether to start restricting travel and so on and so forth. And then I think it really started to hit me more around like late January, early February, that this was looking to be pretty serious, especially starting to see what was happening in Italy, which still to this day is mind-boggling what we're seeing there. And that is what concerns me now as we start to move into seeing the peak starting to occur or moving towards that peak here in the United States. I was doing a hospital rotation back in the beginning of March, and then it really hit me that we needed to make some major changes in the way we were taking care of patients, both outside in primary care and outpatient care and in the hospital setting. And that's when things really became very clear. And we as a health system really started taking major action to try to improve things. And I think we're seeing that across the country as well.
What's given you the most concern during this pandemic when you think about the health of older people? Is it that it's pulmonary? Is it the way it's transmitted? What gives you the most concern about what's going on with coronavirus?
I think a couple of things. One is sort of on the medical biological side, and the other is on the social side. I think on the biological side, what really concerns me is how transmissible this virus is. It's much more transmissible than the influenza virus. And I think at first we thought that maybe they were similar. It's not quite as transmissible as some of the most efficiently transmissible viruses like measles, which is highly, highly contagious, but it's pretty close in terms of how easily it spreads. So I think that concerns me. And I think the fact that it like rapidly, someone who gets infected who's very vulnerable, they are rapidly declining. So it's not just like, oh, maybe in a couple of weeks you might get worse. It's like over the matter of days, where people like 5 days where people are starting to get hospitalized and, and shortly thereafter in the intensive care unit. So I think the fact that it's so virulent, meaning like so pathogenic, so likely to create really serious complications in people pretty early on, I think is concerning. And then the other part of the biological side is that for people who are vulnerable and getting serious illness, we don't know a lot about this yet, but it looks like this virus also creates some pretty serious damage to the lungs for people that do survive it. So we are going to need to learn a lot more about the long-term adverse consequences. And then I mentioned the social side. I think the things that concern me most in this aspect is that I think early on, a lot of people weren't taking it very seriously. And partly because we didn't know a lot about it. And partly because I think we were getting conflicting information, I think, in the media around, and frankly, from our public health authorities about how serious to take this virus. And I think that's not the case anymore. I hope it's not. But I think that delay in taking this virus seriously put us as a nation and us just individually, I think, at more risk because we did not ramp up testing as quickly as we had hoped. So that concerns me. And the final thing that concerns me on the social side is that for our most vulnerable people, our older adults, and for others who have social isolation or limited resources, this is a virus that creating social isolation is key, but we don't have a lot of the safety nets. Many communities don't have the safety nets in place to help deal with providing needed services to these people in isolation. So like our older adults, like our homeless population, like people in rural population and rural communities, we need to really test how well we can deliver services to these vulnerable groups. So that concerns me as well.
Let's talk a little bit about what some of those vulnerable groups, people who are seniors, for example, what can they do to keep themselves safe?
So what I tell anyone, especially those of my patients who are older, and most of my patients are over 65, many are over 80, is that the best defense against this virus or any other infection is to maintain yourself healthy. So healthy aging is your best defense. And what do I mean by that? Remember, our immune system is what really is at the front lines here and dealing with anything that comes our way. And the way to best improve your immune system is to keep yourself healthy through physical activity of any kind, but even if it's up and down your stairs now that you can't easily get out of your house, or walking around your neighborhood, that could be, but exercise is key. And then I think people really need, this is what I'm advising, really as best they can, need to strive for nutritional excellence. And I don't mean just like, well, let's eat a few more fruits and vegetables. I mean nutritional excellence, which is at least 10 or 12 servings of fruits and vegetables daily, if they can, right? I know that's hard. Can be frozen, can be fresh. But really, fruits and vegetables, it's not just like, oh, they're good for you. They're actually critical for your immune system. Vitamin C and other vitamins that are and micronutrients contained in fruits and vegetables. So really thinking about doubling or tripling your fruit and vegetable intake, and that may not even be enough. So I really want to emphasize the need to increase fruits and vegetables. And then to avoid foods that debilitate the immune system. So in particular, foods like eggs and dairy are highly debilitating to the immune system. They're phlegm producing, they're inflammatory foods. And for people, especially who have chronic illness, these are not foods that provide nutrition in a way that's beneficial to folks who have chronic illness. So I really encourage people staying away from those foods. I know it's a hard time right now to get the foods that you may want, but to the extent that people are able to move towards plant-based foods and especially fruits and vegetables. I also tell people to maintain their hydration. It turns out that dehydration is one of the top 5 most common reasons why older adults end up in the hospital, just in general. And then viral illnesses dehydrate you because they cause fever. So maintaining hydration. So just like the fruits and vegetables, drink more than you think you need to drink. And it turns out that fruits and vegetables, especially when consumed in their raw form, really help with hydration because they contain a lot of water inside of them. So really maintaining your hydration. And then the final thing on staying healthy is, so that was all the biological and the physical part, but then remember we've been talking about the social aspect. To make sure they're staying connected, folks are staying connected with their social networks, even if it's in a distanced way through technology or telephones, because that helps. We know that good social connection enhances our resilience and our immune system. So this isn't just about feeling good, though we like that. It literally has a biological benefit.
We're speaking today with Dr. Arbaje. She is with Johns Hopkins. She's a geriatrics expert there with Johns Hopkins University. Talk a little bit about some of the seniors who still have to work. Maybe someone acts as a caregiver for their grandchildren, so they're still having to be around family members, or maybe they are still going to work in the medical field. They're a healthcare provider. Talk a little bit about what those folks need to know if isolating themselves is more of a challenge.
So I think a couple of things. One is specific to this pandemic, and then the other sort of general good advice. So I'll start with the general. The general good advice for anyone at risk or taking care of someone who's at risk is to take the moment now to prepare an emergency information kit and contingency plans for if they got sick. What do I mean by that? So an emergency information kit are the list of all your health conditions, the medications you take, who your healthcare providers are. and importantly, who your healthcare decision makers are if you're not able to make decisions because you're too sick. So also, if there are preferred hospitals or skilled nursing facilities where if you needed to go, you could go, to have a list of those as well. So I think it's really important for people to always have that updated now, is even more than ever. So that's kind of the more care coordination side of things, because when you don't have that information in an emergency, more mistakes can take place. So specifically for the individuals now, I say if you have to get out there or if you're taking care of somebody who you're worried about might be at risk, I think that you should consider things that may make a lot of sense, like wearing a certain outfit just for work and changing out before coming home. Or if you're caring for someone, wearing a certain outfit like scrubs or something that's easily washable, and changing out of those clothes before coming home or as soon as you get home. And then limiting the amount of jewelry that people are wearing that are not essential, because again, that's more stuff that you have to clean. If you have longer hair that you can put up, I would put your hair up and cover it if possible. And then wearing glasses instead of contact lenses, because glasses provide a little bit of an extra shield. It's not 100% obviously, but it decreases the need to like rub your eyes or touch your face and provide somewhat of a barrier. And then keep in your car, if you're going out, keep in your car either some disinfecting wipes or just some paper towels with in a spray bottle of cleaning solution so that you can wipe down key surfaces of your car, on the inside, like the steering wheel, et cetera. And once you get home, to kind of just wipe down the area you just walked into. And then if people have access to gloves, to keep those around for when they're in transit. And then as soon as you get home, shower, change if you haven't been able to do that before getting home, and do that before going and seeing people. Now, I just want to be clear that these are recommendations that are sort of general. We don't really have a lot of clear guidance yet as to what we need to really do specific to this virus, because we don't have enough information yet about this virus and how long it sits on surfaces. There are some early studies that are showing that the coronavirus can be detectable maybe even up to 3 hours in the air, and definitely on surfaces. So up to 24 hours on cardboard and up to 2 to 3 days on plastic and stainless steel. So what does that mean? It means that even if you do all these things I've just been saying, that you want to make sure you clean and disinfect common surfaces in your home often.
Dr. Arbaje, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure, and I hope we can talk to you again one day, but maybe not too soon. Maybe this will all blow over.
I hope so too, but I'm happy to be available and to talk about these really important topics and to honor our older adults.
It's been a pleasure. Coronavirus.jhu.edu is where you can find Johns Hopkins coronavirus dashboard on the pandemic. A lot of resources are on that site, including the answers to frequently asked questions and coronavirus myths versus facts. That's coronavirus.jhu.edu. The Statler Financial Radio Show continues after this.
With the worldwide pandemic and stock markets plummeting, now is the time to listen to a voice of reason. Call Philip today at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
How healthy is your retirement plan? From record highs to historic losses in a matter of days, the impact of the coronavirus has been felt around the world. If COVID-19's effect on the market has you worried, Philip Statler and his team at Statler Financial Services are offering you a complimentary review of your retirement portfolio. And if you don't already have a plan, they can help you create a plan designed to help reduce the risk to your retirement savings when the market drops. Call 863-285-3815 to schedule your complimentary visit or virtual meeting to help make sure your retirement savings are built to last through down markets today and in the future. Call now to give your retirement plan a checkup with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Investment advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Thanks for joining us, the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Philip is the inaugural Highlander Award winner for Financial Representative of the Year. He's president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. StatlerFinancial.com is the website if you'd like to learn a little bit more. And they're very active on Facebook. You can go there as well. Just search for Statler Financial Services. Now, the coronavirus pandemic is not the first time a force of nature has hit us hard, and it won't be the last. Looking back, for example, at Hurricane Katrina, think about the destruction there. It was the most destructive natural disaster in U.S. history, costing $125 billion in property damage, and insurance only covered $80 billion of those. So obviously, when we look at what's happening right now with coronavirus, it's going to take some time before we can put a price tag like that on the total damage coronavirus has done to our communities and to our country. But Philip, let's talk about what you're seeing. What are you seeing in terms of the impact of these cancellations and business closings and job losses right here in this area?
Well, Jen, we've seen every major event canceled, including the 12 hours of Sebring. I mean, that is a major deal here. It brings in hundreds of thousands of people to our community and provides for hotels and restaurants and all that stuff. And so that is a major impact. Now, it wasn't totally canceled. They moved it to November. But still, you had all these people that were planning on coming over here because a lot of people come from Europe. That was a major impact. The other thing I've noticed is that, every single charity has fundraising events in the spring. They've all been canceled or relocated to later in the year. And so, that's got to devastate their budgets. And so that's that whole nonprofit section. And then you've got the restaurants and retail places closing. Those folks have lost their jobs. And so it is a huge impact. And you're right. Nobody's going to know what the price tag looks like until we get down probably 6 months, maybe even a year after this thing's done.
Well, when you talk about, for example, charities who've had to put off some of their fundraisers, and you think about different festivals and things that small businesses build their budgets around the anticipated income for some of these things and when they think the money will be coming in. On a personal level, though, that people are having some of the same types of struggles. Maybe something has happened with their income stream. Maybe it's a job loss. Maybe it's a furlough. Maybe things have just really cut back for them. In times like these, how do you help people avoid making emotional decisions with the long-term money they're going to need for retirement?
Well, it's a balancing act, Jen. I mean, I think we have to talk through the scenario and then really and truly look at what all the resources that are out there, right? Let's don't just look at, I have a shortfall here. I need to go do a money grab out of my retirement account. Let's think through this, right? Let's take emotions out of it. Let's lay out a plan as to, what do we need to do? How do we need to do it? I had this call the other day with one of my clients. It's like, look, I think that we're going to get furloughed on X date. And so, I'm good for, till the end of the month, as long as the government money comes in. But if it doesn't, what do we do? And so we start looking at different things, right? Okay. So, you have a beneficiary IRA, you have to take an RMD from it. So that'll give you some money. We'll just take a little early. We start planning out that process, not just, I have this need, let's go grab it from here. No, we talk through. I mean, we're a retirement coach, right? We're going to coach them through this process and help them make the right decisions. Now, if the last resort is we got to take money from that account, obviously that's what we're going to do. But we want to walk them through to make sure that is the best choice at that point in time to make that money grab.
What about planning for natural disasters? Obviously, you have some experience with that, being in a state where hurricanes are a force of nature we have to deal with. How do you help people put together some financial readiness plans for something like that?
Well, I think the first thing to look at, Jen, is our own right, natural disaster plan, because you're right. We've gone through, several hurricanes, and the last one was only 2.5 years ago now. So we still remember that one pretty well. But thankfully, we can readily work from anywhere we are. If we have a cell phone and a laptop, we can do whatever needs to be done for our clients. So that's number one. Not everybody in this industry can say that, right? So that is number one. We have access to everything wherever we are, not an issue there. Secondly, we help clients, number one, by making sure they have an emergency money fund, right? It's not, hey, take every dollar you got and invest it. No, it's, look, we need to have, $20,000, $40,000 sitting there as an emergency fund. Not because we're going to make anything on it, but because it's there when we need it. We don't have to worry about calling somebody to liquidate something. We don't have to worry about filling out a form to get it. It's at the bank. We go grab it. It's there. I think that's the important part, is that needs to be part of everybody's financial plan, is to have that emergency fund there to get through disasters like we're seeing right now. In times like these, your mind quickly goes to family first. I know mine has, especially with family spread throughout the countryside. And it should. Family always comes first. And we want to invite you into our extended family here at Statler Financial. While 1,000 tasks may be on your mind after your lives get turned around and turned upside down, but don't forget that we're here to help when it comes to making the best financial decisions for you. Before you make any big financial decision that can impact your retirement, call us at 863-285-3815 so that we can help you in this difficult time. We'll help you create and do a financial analysis of your current portfolio. We'll look at the risk through our financial x-ray. We'll take all these things into account to help you through this process, and also to plan for what may be coming ahead. We don't know what these markets are going to do. There still are ups and there are still downs, and you don't ever know until several months behind us. We'll know when the bottom has finally gotten here. So you need to plan for that, even though you may have already taken some losses. Your retirement is too important not to plan ahead. So to get your very own financial x-ray, give us a call at 863-285-3815 to get started. It's complimentary, no obligation. That number again is 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. I'm Jen Rezac alongside. The website is statlerfinancial.com if you'd like to learn a little bit more. Philip, can you talk about when to go to your emergency fund and when to consider looking at other options to get through a situation like what we're in right now?
Well, I think that it depends on what the other options are, right? So I think your first line of defense, at least what we're talking about here in the current state of economy and the current state of the virus situation here, I think the first thing you look at is, what are all the resources out there? What resources can I get a hold of? And if that's not enough, or if that won't work, then I think that your next place is to go to that emergency fund. Take what you need out of there to get through this process. I mean, I think most people believe and feel like that this is going to be within 2 months, hopefully we're through this and past this and on to a returning cycle and getting through this and on the other side. But nobody knows for sure, Jen. We don't know when that's going to be.
So, Philip, you're right. We don't know when all this is going to blow over. We don't know exactly when it'll be done. Are a lot of people just hunkering down and waiting for then before they make any changes with what to do with their money? And is that what we should be doing? Just not doing anything, letting it ride the course, and then trying to repair the damage once it's over?
Well, first, let's talk about hunkering down.
Okay.
In our community, Jen, unfortunately, I'm not seeing enough hunkering down. I don't think. I think
Physically
people are still,
down.
People are still too lax, especially the younger generations. That have a hard time sitting still anyway, are having a hard time staying at home. And I understand that, but it really is important at this stage that everybody do the best they can to hunker down and stay home. Now, talking about our finances, I think people are more focused on their health than their finances right now. To a certain extent, that may be good. But I also feel like, that you don't want to wait until this cycle's done before you start taking action if you're seeing your portfolio diminish quickly. This first quarter, not even the first quarter, really, in about a period of about 3 weeks, we saw a major decline in our markets. And it may not be done. That's the downside. It may not be done. So there may be more to come. And so I tell people now's the time to take another evaluation of your portfolio to make sure that you're ready for the next down leg. We can always, help you get it back, but, it's better not to lose any more. And so that's kind of the scenario we're in. And so we encourage people at this point to schedule a call with us, schedule a Zoom meeting, and let us just make sure that if the market continues to decline, that you're not going to be adversely affected.
And even after the markets calm down and things get back to normal, we still have a presidential election ahead of us. How can we even think about planning when we're surrounded by this much uncertainty, that level of unknown?
Well, Jen, let me just say, I don't let uncertainty cause you to be like a deer in the headlights and stop. That may be the worst thing you can do. Too often, and so far, I hear this a lot, and I heard it back in 2008, just ride the wave. Folks, a lot of folks that did that, right, that rode the down cycle couldn't take it to the end and bailed before it turned around to come back up. So don't put yourself in that situation. Make sure that we're looking at how much risk we have in the portfolio, and let's analyze that risk and make sure you're comfortable with how much more downside there could be. We can get the upside, but let's protect on the downside. That's what's important. A lot of folks at this point are really starting to ask some questions. Do I have enough money to retire now? I've seen a decline. Well, let's face it, when you retire, your paycheck kind of goes away like it is right now, right? I mean, a lot of people have lost their paychecks. How are we covering expenses? Those things are important. I can't tell you how vitally important it is to make sure that you're comfortable with the risk you have. And even the folks I've met with recently, before this disaster started happening, they weren't, right? They weren't comfortable. We've already started making changes, for those folks and moving accounts over to make those changes. If you're not sure where you are in the risk spectrum, please give us a call. Walk through our process of our financial x-ray. Give us a call right now at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back after this.
If you have a retirement plan and would like a second opinion, call Statler Financial Services today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. How healthy is your retirement plan? From record highs to historic losses in a matter of days, the impact of the coronavirus has been felt around the world. If COVID-19's effect on the market has you worried, Philip Statler and his team at Statler Financial Services are offering you a complimentary review of your retirement portfolio. And if you don't already have a plan, they can help you create a plan designed to help reduce the risk to your retirement savings when the market drops. Call 863-285-3815 to schedule your complimentary visit or virtual meeting to help make sure your retirement savings are built to last through down markets today and in the future. Call now to give your retirement plan a checkup with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Investment advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
With the worldwide pandemic and stock markets plummeting, now is the time to listen to a voice of reason. Call Philip today at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Thanks for joining us today. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. StatlerFinancial.com is the website if you'd like to learn a little bit more. They're also active on Facebook. If you're on there, just do a search for Statler Financial Services, and the website, the online tools, the phone number, Philip, these are all ways we can still very much be connected with you. And are you still doing daily updates as well on the latest with the markets?
We are, yeah. We're
Okay.
we still post our daily commentary from the radio show with Dave. So that's been good too. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, because obviously you and I are only here once a week. A lot happens during all those days in between. So it's good to know that there are some other places we can still be getting the latest information from you. Again, StatlerFinancial.com is the website if you want to check some of those things out. As we've been talking today about what to do in times of crisis, when there is a crisis unfolding around us, there are some things we can control and a lot we just can't do anything about. And that's really difficult, but that's why it helps to have someone, a guide by your side to help you find solid footing. Philip, one thing we can't control is the government's response to a crisis situation. And whether it is wartime spending or emergency stimulus bills like what we've recently seen, we can't expect the price tag for government spending to be high. I think we can say that universally. How could that potentially impact our retirement plans?
Well, I think one thing that could be a big part of that is, and I've said this for a long time now, is that we are seeing the lowest tax rates we're ever going to see. There's only one way for them to go, and that's up. And so I think that what we've just seen now, it puts even more pressure on the government down the road when things turn around, that our taxes are going to have to go up. I mean, can you imagine the amount of money we're borrowing right now, to throw out to folks so that we can still function and still move forward? But at some point, folks, they're going to need that money back. They're going to have to get it back one way or another, whether it's through taxes, through fees, somehow they're going to have to get that money back and pay it back. And so when that happens, that means your and my taxes are going to go up. So now's the time to be thinking about things like Roth conversions, things like if you're making contributions to your 401k, maybe you should be doing it on the Roth side, not the regular side. All those things are pretty important right now, and things that we run numbers for our clients all the time to figure out what's the best thing for them to do.
Talk a little bit more about some of those opportunities for tax planning that retirees should be considering. I know in times of volatility and everything that's going on, tax planning might be one of the last things on our mind, but it's still an opportunity that we have right now, right?
Yeah, it probably is one of the last things on their minds, but it is a huge opportunity right now. People are seeing their IRAs diminish. And so now's the time to really think about doing some Roth conversions. Now, obviously, you have to run the numbers and you have to make sure that you do it right, because the one thing that got taken away from us is do-overs, right? There's no more do-overs when it comes to Roth conversions. So you got to get it right the first time, because you can't take it back. Again, if you are in a tax bracket and you're not in a low tax bracket, like if you're in that 10% or 12% or the zero, I mean, I've sat down with people with zero and they're not doing anything like this. And so you need to be really running the numbers and doing some Roth conversions to make sure that you're taking advantage of the tax bracket that you're in, especially if you're in that 0, 10, or 12% tax bracket, Jen.
So what should we do if we aren't sure we're getting the right guidance for our retirement? And as you're saying, it sounds like a lot of people maybe need to get some different guidance.
Well, Jen, I would say that, and this is kind of funny, but just because you've heard from your advisor doesn't mean you're getting guidance. If he's just calling saying, hey, how you doing? How you holding up? But he's not talking about making changes and how much risk is in your portfolio and other tax things you should be doing or those type of things. All he's doing is just checking your temperature to make sure you're okay. you need to have some concern. You need to be, proactive at this point, making changes in portfolios. The status quo is not the status quo anymore. We need to be proactive, making changes to portfolios, because if we can limit your losses now, you don't have to make as much on the upside to get back to where you were. Folks, doing the same thing over and over is not going to get you where you need to be. That's the problem, is that, now I think more than ever, people need guidance. They need coaching. And that's really why we want to be the retirement coach of Central Florida and really help people through that process.
I think it's important to recognize that a second opinion might uncover a few tweaks. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to start all the way over again. I think sometimes that can make people hesitant to get that second opinion because they don't want to have to, just turn everything upside down.
Well, yeah, it doesn't mean, just because you get a second opinion doesn't mean there's wholesale changes that need to be made. Hey, we look at your risk number and your risk number, is 10 points off of what your portfolio is. I mean, that's a small tweak to get your portfolio to line up with your risk number. And so I think people are hesitant, Jen. They think, well, I'm going to come see Philip and he's going to make all these changes. Well, that's not necessarily true. If you're in a good spot, then we may just need to tweak a thing here or there. Let's face it, Jen. When we get ready to retire, we don't need any uncertainty around that retirement date. And my fear right now is that folks that thought they were going to retire next year have a lot of uncertainty because they feel like they don't know if they're going to be able to retire. So here's one more final thing I want you to kind of think about. Do you truly know your financial advisor? For that matter, does your financial advisor truly know you? Yeah, I want to know your goals, your priorities. I want to know your vision for retirement. And I ask that you give me a call at 863-285-3815 right now, or visit my website at statlerfinancial.com. Set up a no obligation consultation. What does it hurt to get a second opinion? Folks, I was talking to somebody just the other day, and I think we're going to see more and more of this. He was getting ready to make a move over to our firm. And he was talking to his financial advisor. And his financial advisor said, well, I think that's probably a good choice. I'm getting ready to retire in the next 30 days. Folks, I think you're going to see more and more advisors out there that can't handle the ups and downs anymore. They're done. And they're going to start retiring. Folks, give us a call. Let us coach you through retirement. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Folks, do it right now. Do it while you're thinking about it. Give us a call. Let us help you make sure that you are on the right track for retirement. 863-285-3815. Folks, listen, till next week, be safe, stay inside, do your social distancing, do what's right.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. Thanks for joining us today. That number one more time, 863-285-3815. Be sure to tune in again next week for more insights from Philip.